Boxing promoter Eddie Hearn astoundingly reveals that Tank Davis will fight Shakur Stevenson in the next anticipated bout. In a recent interview, Eddie Hearn shared his thoughts on the young Shakur Stevenson. He said that he has been promoting him since the past year.
Been calling the Shakur fighter audition for you. Are you in talks with Shakur Stevenson?
He's coming on Saturday. I mean, listen, I can't. I mean, I've done a much better job than Top Rank in promoting him over the last 12 months. I don't even have a contract with him. Because I answer questions from you guys, and I say the same thing all the time. I think he's a pound-for-pound great fighter.
Hearn praised Shakur for his incredible boxing style, as he said that he has the highest numbers on ESPN, and everybody is talking about him. Eddie also remarked that he would love to see Shakur fight William Zepeda, because that will be a fight worth watching. Many promoters are working together, especially with Turki Al Sheikh and the Riyadh season, so there's a good chance fights like Zepeda, Tank, or Shakur can happen in the near future. Hearn also believes that Shakur needs some fluidity going into the free agent mix. He may be willing to sign a 2-fight or 3-fight deal with Matchroom. In another interview, Eddie Hearn revealed that he had discussions with Shakur Stevenson, and he would love to help him deliver the right fights.
I mean, I met with Shakur, Jay Prince, Josh Dubin. Great team, great, like really honest conversation. And the conversation was, I would love to sign you, but I need to deliver the right fights for you. And if I can't deliver those fights for you, maybe I'm not the guy to be with. I think, put words in their mouth, I think we all agree that with the right fights, I'm the right guy for the job.
Hearn elaborated his remarks on bringing Shakur the best fights by saying that the fights need to work for Stevenson, and they need to work for us as well. Eddie Hearn was able to work with PBC to make the Edgar Berlanga and Canelo Alvarez fight happen, which may give him some leverage to make the Shakur and Tank fight a reality. Eddie said that the only way Tank and Shakur fight can come to fruition is if he is working with Shakur as his promoter, and talks are still ongoing. Hearn further commented on how fights like Tank and Shakur can come to life. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tank against Shakur, because fights get made like situations and circumstances are everything, do you understand? So Tank's got all these eggs in his basket for a Lomachenko fight, then that falls through, you're really left holding your at that point. Going blind, who am I gonna fight? Boom. Shakur is a free agent. He's ready to do a deal, and timing is everything, you know. Eddie is excited to sign Shakur with Tank Davis because all the pieces of the puzzle are falling in place, with Shakur being a free agent and Lomachenko worryingly ducking Tank Davis. Hearn commented that if Shakur doesn't do a deal with PBC, then he will swoop in and be a part of Stevenson's promoting team. Hearn also said that he hopes Shakur will make the legacy fights he needs with or without Matchroom, but Eddie seems persistent in promoting Shakur. Meanwhile, in a recent interview with ProBox TV former boxer Chris Algieri was asked about his thoughts on the alleged news that Shakur will be fighting William Zepeda in October instead of Tank Davis.
Teddy Atlas to break down this new information. Gentlemen, let's start with you, Chris. Your first thoughts on it. Thought it was going to be Gervonta Davis in November. That was kicking around yesterday. Now it looks like it is going to be William Zepeda in October. Your thoughts on it, Chris?
Well, the news minute in boxing really is a minute because, as you said, we were talking about Gervonta Davis, Shakur Stevenson as of yesterday. But, I mean, this is a fight that I thought was a great idea months ago. I think that this is the kind of opponent that Shakur Stevenson really needs to showcase his skills.
Chris Algieri was surprised to hear the news of Shakur versus Zepeda, and he said that this is one of the fights that will bring a lot of recognition for Shakur. It is a must-have fight on Shakur's resume. If Shakur can continue to do against Zepeda what he has done with other fighters, then that will send shockwaves of terror among other boxers in the same 135-pound division. Chris complimented Zepeda by saying that he is an extremely entertaining fighter, pushing himself to the limit every single time. William fits the bill perfectly for Shakur because he needs that entertaining matchup to counter the backlash that he is facing, with him being a very boring defensive fighter. Chris further remarked regarding Shakur and Zepeda fight, I mean, this fight makes a lot of sense. It's a verbal agreement, so we'll see if it actually comes to fruition because this is boxing and anything can happen. I mean, initially the news, I like it. On the other hand, former boxer Paulie Malignaggi said that both fighters, Shakur and Zepeda, need each other because they are making a name for themselves.
What are your thoughts, Paulie, on the challenges William Zepeda might bring as opposed to a Gervonta Davis? What does William Zepeda bring for the casual fan that maybe Shakur Stevenson has to get ready for now?
Well, I think it's the kind of opponent that each guy needs, really. You know, I usually would be skeptical of just a verbal agreement. I usually would be skeptical that's a rumor. But when you look at the fine print here, so to speak, you realize both these guys kind of need each other.
William Zepeda is climbing up the ladder by defeating big-name opponents so he can make a mark in the division. Shakur, on the other hand, is already an Olympic silver medalist, and he has shown great resolve in his previous fights, but he is having trouble getting the elite of boxing to notice him. Zepeda is perceived as a threat by the public to other members of his weight class, and if Shakur can do what he does best, then he will not have problems facing more famous fighters next time. Paulie is confident that Shakur and William may fight next because both of them supplement each other. Malignaggi further commented that there shouldn't be any conflict in terms of Shakur being a free agent and Zepeda being with Golden Boy because both fighters desperately need this fight. Paulie also pointed out that Turki Al Sheikh knows how to make these fights happen, so we can count on him as well. Malignaggi elaborated his remarks on the Zepeda-Shakur fight by saying, "I expect to see these guys fighting in October, and it's very, very exciting." I mean, listen, Oscar La Hoya was meeting with Turki Al Sheikh just in the last day or two, right? We saw the post on Oscar's Instagram, if anybody noticed it. So they may have been talking about this. After the August 3rd fight card on the Riyadh season, Paulie mentioned that we have October to look forward to with Beterbiev versus Bivol, and now we may get Shakur and Zepeda. Paulie is overwhelmingly excited to see Shakur fight Zepeda, and he is convinced that Turki can make it happen. Malignaggi commended Turki for putting his money wherever the eyes of the casual fans are going. Meanwhile, Mike Tyson's former coach, Teddy Atlas, commented on how Zepeda can break Shakur's impeccable defense. He said that William needs to lay off the pressure and think critically.
When you look at this fight, Teddy, William Zepeda, of course, has to solve a riddle in Shakur Stevenson, who's an excellent boxer, very, very slick, hard to get to him. What would be your advice for William Zepeda on how to get to Shakur Stevenson, a guy who's been very elusive in the ring?
Not the way he's just plain been doing it. Not the cold, naked, if you will, way that he's been doing it, where it's just been pressure, body work. Sounds great, looks great, I get it, but against a guy as clever and advanced and skillful as Shakur, ain't gonna get it done. He's got to be more sophisticated than that.
Teddy further said that Zepeda needs to be more tactical and sophisticated with his fights. Atlas commended Zepeda for the level of guys he has been beating, and it's a really exciting boxing style. Atlas gave the analogy of Floyd and Pacquiao when he compared Shakur and Zepeda. Pacquiao was a very aggressive fighter, and Money Mayweather was a really defensive opponent just like Shakur. Distressingly, Atlas believed that Zepeda needs more than pressure if he wants to win against Shakur. Stevenson, having the defensive mindset that he has, can take apart a pressure fighter like Zepeda piece by piece and damage him throughout the rounds. Shakur Stevenson makes a living off of guys who come forward first, and he counters them with massive counterpunch blows. In addition, Atlas gave Zepeda some solid advice to beat Shakur Stevenson. He said that William needs to add feints and not just walk in a straight line against Shakur, while also lose some of the predictability that William has. If the aggression is very predictable, then he will be walking into a minefield of counterpunches against Stevenson. The most important aspect of the strategy to win against Shakur is that Zepeda should use jabs on his body to make Shakur lower the guard. In an interview elsewhere, Eddie Hearn commented that he is doing talks with Shakur and his team regarding the possible matches, but he shockingly revealed Gervonta Davis is not an upcoming possibility.
Shakur Stevenson, a lot of headlines in the news. You were given a calm-ish about a headline that he put out that him and Gervonta, I don't know, close to signing this deal in November. In terms of Shakur, how close are you to signing him?
I mean, there's not like, we had a great meeting. You know, he's got a great team of people around him. We're kind of, I don't want to say officially working on his behalf, because we're not, but we're instructed to have certain conversations around fights for him, of which is an honour. one of those is not Gervonta.
Eddie thinks that it's not a smart move for Shakur to go towards Gervonta Davis just like that. He needs a couple of exciting fights before the Tank Davis fight to hype up the crowd even more. Hearn is convinced that he wants to work with Shakur and his team in the near future, but the working relationship has to be right for everybody. Hearn believes that Shakur is in the exploratory stage, and if the right arguments are set in place, then they will work with each other in the upcoming months. Although nothing has been put on paper yet, Eddie and Shakur's team are working on some ideas for the possible fights. Furthermore, Eddie was asked if Matchroom would be involved in Shakur and Gervonta fight, to which he responded, "Only if Shakur wants us to. Yeah, we're not leading those conversations. We're not in those conversations. I think we could add huge value even in that fight for Gervonta, but maybe our involvement would stop a deal. So we're happy to sit back, and this is where I think we're all on the same page. Like, for me, Team Shakur Stevenson is not Shakur Stevenson and Eddie Hearn." In addition, Eddie Hearn was asked if he would consider signing a one-fight deal or multiple-fight deal with Shakur Stevenson. Hearn responded by saying that he is easygoing in terms of how many fights a fighter wants to sign, but it makes sense for the business to go to long-term contracts. Hearn said that he wants to develop a good relationship with his fighters so they can remember him in good memories once their career is over. Eddie is convinced that if he does a good job with a single fight deal with Shakur, then Jay Prince and Josh, who are part of Shakur's team, will work with him in the future. In another interview, Eddie Hearn was asked about Lomachenko avoiding a fight with Tank Davis by taking a year off, to which he responded that Loma is a smart guy and it's a wise decision.
Speaking of Tank, looks like Lomachenko is taking the rest of the year off. That was the big fight that people were expecting. What are your thoughts on Lomachenko putting away for the Tank?
I think if the deal's not right and he's not really up for it, Lomachenko's that kind of guy that will just go, nah, leave it. So he's decided to leave it.
Hearn is interested to see who Tank fights next. He predicted that he will be fighting the winner of the August 3rd undercard between Pitbull Cruz and Rayo Valenzuela. In another interview, boxer Bernie Thaw told the audience that Shakur looks like the J. Cole of boxing when he gave the analogy of how modest Shakur is.
I had to think about this. I was thinking about this just sitting around about Shakur. I was going to say it on my show. But you know what Shakur kind of reminds me of? Shakur reminds me of like the J. Cole of rap. Shakur is like so nonchalant. You know what I mean? He's like his jewelry is just, his clothes is always modest. His talk is always modest.
Bernie further praised Shakur by saying that Stevenson says he's the best, and he never says his boxing is really fast or it's great. He always stays humble in the way he dresses and talks. Bernie ironically claimed that Shakur is calling all these fighters out, but they are not responding to his call because his main question is that they can't beat him. Shakur Stevenson remains cool in the interviews, and his confidence outshines all when he calls other boxers out to fight. As long as Stevenson keeps on winning, people will be coming to see him from all over the world. Furthermore, Bernie's trainer agreed with his remarks in favor of Shakur Stevenson. He said that even though Shakur doesn't have a very attractive boxing style, he is still the best pound-for-pound fighters in the art of defense. This era gets caught up in knockouts and aggressive fighting style, but the real strategy of boxing is shown in counterpunches, which Shakur is a master of. Bernie's trainer further compared Shakur with Floyd Mayweather. He said that people thought Floyd was a really boring fighter, but people from all over the world came to see him in hopes that he may lose, but he kept on winning fights with his defensive style. Thas trainer doesn't agree with the backlash that Shakur is facing for his boxing because those people are not in the ring, they are just outside critics. Meanwhile, professional boxer Isaac Pitbull Cruz was asked if he would do a rematch with Gervonta Davis at 140, to which he responded that it's very much a possibility if Gervonta moves up to the 140-pound weight class.
A few fights that fans want to see you in, but the main one is a rematch with Gervonta Davis. Do you think the rematch happens at 135 or do you see it happening at 140 in the future?
¿En cuántas libras crees que puedas enfrentar a peleas? O sea, que hay muchas peleas que pues la gente quiere ver contigo, ¿no? Pero pues una en especial es la de Gervonta Davis. ¿Cómo consideras que fuera en la 135 o en la 140?
Pues en cualquiera de las dos divisiones, pero creo que donde estaría más interesante sería yo creo que en 140.
Isaac Pitbull Cruz fought Gervonta Davis back in 2021, and he lost by unanimous decision. Ever since the fight, fans have been eagerly craving a rematch. Pitbull thinks that the epic rematch may happen at 140 because that is a weight where both fighters would stop in the future. In addition, Cruz was asked who his top opponents are among Tank, Teofimo Lopez, Ryan, and Shakur Stevenson. He said that his top opponent would definitely be Tank Davis because the fans would love the rematch. His second choice is Lopez due to his incredible explosiveness, and his third option would be Ryan Garcia because that is also a fight people want to see. Cruz mocked Shakur Stevenson by leaving him at the end because Pitbull thinks that a fight with Shakur would be more of a marathon race than a real fight. Isaac violated Shakur by saying that he would put people to sleep in the fight. Cruz thinks that Shakur deserves the criticism he is receiving from fans for his boxing style. A fight with Shakur means that it would be more of a Mozart concert than an entertaining fight. Cruz also believes that Stevenson has fought fighters that were not very well known. None of Shakur's performances have been great so far, said Isaac. In another interview, trainer Greg Hackett predicted that Shakur is being unreasonably quiet about the Gervonta Davis fight, which may hint to its possibility.
Yes, sir. So Lomachenko pulled out of negotiations with Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
Shakur Stevenson's been unseasonably quiet.
Yeah.
About the Gervonta Davis fight as of recent.
Yeah.
Is that signs?
It might be signs of that fight might be getting made.
Greg believes that Shakur is keeping quiet because there are people guiding him on the path to his career. Shakur Stevenson said enough about Tank that people are convinced it will be a good matchup. Hackett believes that Shakur may be working on a strategy to beat Tank, and his full focus may be going to his training. That way he can put up a better performance against Tank Davis. Hackett further commented that Tank should take on Shakur because that would be his second best matchup apart from Lomachenko, because Loma already refused the Tank fight. Both Shakur and Tank are in their prime right now, so they should take the opportunity to give the fans what they need. When Greg was asked if it was the right time for the fight to take place, he responded that there is no time like the present. Shakur is a free agent and Tank doesn't have any top opponent, so both fighters can take their best shot to determine who is the best at 135. Greg further commented that people won't think Shakur can do anything against Tank Davis, but if he goes in there and does something wild, then he will turn the majority of the people into fans. Hackett further described that Gervonta may feel vulnerable against Shakur because he has the momentum, and Shakur has everybody talking about him even though some of them are haters. Greg was of the opinion that Shakur is probably the sharpest boxer in the world, despite what the critics may claim, and he can fight really well. Meanwhile, Gervonta Davis brutally ridiculed Shakur in his recent interview, saying that Shakur has no technique, no defense, and no power. Davis further elaborated that Shakur is never going to be one of his toughest opponents.
6-7 more fights and I'm naming names. One of the guys, obviously, you and Shakur got into it on Twitter. You was like, you wanted them 6 or 7.
Yeah, he's definitely one of them.
For sure?
Yeah, he's definitely one of them.
Do you think that's going to be your hardest fight?
Hell no.
Nah?
Wow.
Because he a good boxer, nigga. Like, that's when I look at y'all two as the best in the division.
How? Show me something that he did spectacular. Show me something that he did outrageous. Show me.
Right,
his power not outrageous.
Okay.
What defense?
You don't think he got defense?
He just jumped back. You never see him slip no punch. You never see him slip no punch. Go look at it. You see him back up from a lot of people. Back up, move around. He don't got no technique. And his offense is the same thing. If you go look at his fights,
so you
I'll
feel
probably
like
pin him on game. Probably tell him that. Yeah,
hold on, but you feel like it's easy work though. You like,
come on, bro.
Do you think Shakur will fight Tank Davis in November? Let us know in the comments section below.